You watch the promotional demos, and AI generation looks effortless, but the reality for most creators is highly fragmented. You are operating out of 20 different browser tabs, bouncing between text models, voice synthesizers, and motion generators. When you work in these isolated silos, you are forced into a patchwork process. You end up spending far more time managing endless download folders, renaming files, and hunting for specific audio stems than you do actually directing a story. The solution to this app fatigue is a single, centralized environment. You need a unified terminal where every stage of production, from the initial script to the final visual effects, is managed in one place. This flowchart shows exactly how that unified space alters the production cycle. We move away from the slow, linear relay race, where one department waits on the next, and transition into a rapid, circular loop, where ideation, generation, and refinement happen simultaneously. Generating assets is no longer the hard part. The primary constraint restricting output today is the speed of the infrastructure connecting those tools. Let's put this into practice. Step 1 is building a structural blueprint. We are going to produce a 15-second cinematic promo titled "How AI is Changing Creative Work." To get usable results, we use a framework called layered prompting. Instead of a single vague instruction, you feed the AI 3 parameters: a clear narrative goal, a defined emotional tone, and strict stylistic constraints. Watch how the system processes those layered instructions. Within moments, it generates a complete multi-scene storyboard, breaking our promo down shot by shot. We use AI at this stage to build a solid structural foundation. It organizes the pacing and visual flow, but we reserve the final emotional decisions for the human editor. A best practice here is to instruct the system to provide multiple idea clusters. Never accept the first output it generates. Ask for 3 different stylistic interpretations and choose the strongest path. By enforcing a rigorous blueprint early, you avoid generating beautiful but disconnected clips. You ensure the final sequence follows a logical, compelling narrative arc. With the storyboard locked, we move into the generation phase. We feed those scene descriptions directly into the video model, while simultaneously rendering the voiceover track from our text script. This is where you see the raw rendering power of modern models. They interpret the text instructions and output high-fidelity cinematic motion in seconds. Because we are in a unified terminal, you can watch the audio waveforms and the video clips populate side by side. You immediately see how the visual pacing aligns with the spoken word. Operating at this speed allows a small 2-person team to test dozens of conceptual directions, review the renders, and pivot their strategy all within a single afternoon. Fast rendering is the baseline standard now. The true differentiator is the creative direction you apply to these generated assets. That brings us to refinement. The human in the loop is the final editorial authority. You are the filter responsible for trimming robotic pauses, adjusting the timing, and injecting genuine taste into the sequence. You pull the generated clips and audio stems directly into your timeline. Here, you trim the fat, tighten the cuts, and ensure the emotional beats land exactly where they should. This is the philosophy of the AI auteur. You are taking raw, computationally generated outputs and using your specific vision to multiply their impact. We finalize the edit by snapping our visual cuts directly to the audio waveform's beat. Then we apply a specific color grade to ensure our distinctive style is baked into the final output. The sequence is locked. We initiate the final export. Let's look at the finished promo. This first exported frame shows a white sedan racing through a desert landscape at night. The lighting reflections and motion blur demonstrate the high realism the model achieves. This second shot features a side profile of a person in sunglasses. Notice how the warm, directional light and stylistic motion blur maintain the specific aesthetic constraints we set in our layered prompt. By unifying the workflow, we collapsed a post-production cycle that traditionally takes weeks into a few minutes of concentrated creative decision-making. As you scale this process, your primary challenge evolves. You are no longer struggling to create content. You are tasked with managing the infrastructure that produces it. Relying on separate applications creates artifact fragmentation. You lose track of which prompt generated which image, you struggle to prove copyright compliance, and asset lineage disappears into isolated browser histories. This schematic outlines the talent site architecture. It is a unified system built around a central infrastructure layer that coordinates all of your distinct creative terminals, video, audio, and image, from one hub. Because the infrastructure sits at the center, every artifact is connected. The system tracks your inputs, logs your outputs, and secures your project history, giving you total ownership of the entire production lineage. Creators who operate within a unified, traceable process hold a massive advantage. They control their production pipeline entirely, making them highly effective in a high-volume economy. The landscape has shifted. The most successful teams have stopped piecing together isolated apps and have started building on unified creator foundations. Visit the link on screen to explore Talent Site's architecture and upgrade your creative infrastructure today.